So, welcome. This is actually Dawn Hehr is my friend, longtime friend, and she's become a spiritual advisor and has a website devoted to her intuitive healing practice and so much more. Hello, Dawn.
Hi, how's it going, Ralph?
I
How's
have
it
almost
going over there in your neck of the woods?
I have almost no complaints. Things are quite well.
Well, good. I'm glad.
So this is quite the experiment for us. But we
It is.
chatted a lot, and you have a lot on your mind right now. There's things you want to talk about, and today's topic is ascension,
Yeah.
awakening, current events, how they reflect what's going on, and you have quite a few things to say about that. So I'm quite ready to listen and ask you some questions about your observations.
Sure. Well, we are in a crazy, well, today is a portal. I'm going to talk about the portal first.
Okay.
This is a really unique power system that's happening today. It's 11/11, literally. And, with all the crazy things that have been happening in the world, I would say within the last 10 years, we are actually at the end of this cycle, that the Mayans talked about, where this new life is starting for all of us. And in spite of the things in the world, there's really a lot of things going on. I say astrologically. And so we are in this system today that whatever we decide to put our thoughts around is actually going to show up in our life. And it's about time, because a lot of us have really been pushing through and really trying to stay positive with all of this crazy stuff going on, during 2020. So just a little bit to talk about that. We have a lot of planets that are working in relation to these weird, like we just went through a Mercury retrograde that kind of brought up a lot of the stuff that we've been holding on to as far as love's concerned. The other side of that is that we have another portal that a lot of the spiritual teachers are talking about on December 21st, which is supposed to be, the grand finale as to really being set with 2 feet in to your best life ever. And so, it's really in the best interest of all of us to kind of go outside and find some peace in nature, maybe meditate, quiet yourself, really, really ask within those answers that you're kind of struggling with right now. So there's a lot going on, Ralph, and today's a really, really super extreme day for those that have been really trying to manifest this beautiful dream life. So they're going to be able to use this energy to really push forward and activate their lives in the best way possible. So there's a lot of wonderful energy, even though I know that there's probably some of these people out here like, what is she talking about? We just went through election, COVID, all this stuff. Well, on the brighter side of things, just because of the state of the world doesn't mean that we can't create our own peace within, because that's what's really important for all of us right now, so that we can use these astrological systems to, get that career that we're wanting, maybe to change to a home-based business. There's a lot of energy that's providing us to really, really have this magical life. And, I've been coercing with a lot of my mentors, and they're like, just stay positive through all this crazy, because there's really a lot of beautiful things that are about to happen to all of us, and for those of us that are wanting relationships, that energy's coming in for us. We're getting a strong success thread to hold on to and run with. So very positive times right now, even though it looks kind of crazy. It's really, really a great time for all of us.
I absolutely believe that because just yesterday, I was reading an article about, for instance, we've all heard of how 50% of all marriages end in divorce, right?
Right.
And they're saying that's actually not true, that marriages are we have the lowest divorce rate in 50 years.
I know. I
That
know.
COVID has
Well, and
actually brought people
there's a lot
together.
of great things. Even the earth is kind of, revamping itself. So, I mean, that's wonderful to hear. I mean, we haven't heard those type of statistics in years. So,
I
there
mean,
is
I've seen all sorts of bright sides, even during these times of troubles. I
right.
actually recorded a video that I didn't upload because some friends and family said, well, it comes off as a little, I don't know, people can get
A little
offended.
out there. Yeah.
But my point was, look at where you really are. Look at your life around you. For
Right.
instance, I'm up here in the Yampa Valley. There's no real civil disobedience or civil disturbances.
Right.
The weather was beautiful. I started a YouTube channel that's doing okay. You've been doing really okay with your channel, The Intuitive Healer. I mean, yes, during times of strife, that's when things actually can get a lot better if you embrace that
Absolutely.
energy and ride it. And I think that's what you're talking about.
Absolutely. It's, I've been telling people probably for the last couple of years, I'm like, we're kind of in this calm before the storm. And this storm is us really excelling forward, because I feel like in probably the last 5 to 7 years, we've had some stagnancy, we've had some significant growth. That's actually allowed us to be placed in the place that we're in right now. And, sometimes we have to find our own peace, Ralph, when things get crazy. And, I used to own a business called Shridiva Wellness, and, I had a little motto, and it was, there's gifts in our wounds. So let's find them and use them to our benefit, because we think that when we're in these low spots in our lives that, oh no, things are happening and my life's terrible, instead of going, wow, what am I grateful for, and what is the value that I'm sitting with in my life. And not everything's as bad as it seems. And so I think it's really in our best interest to find a different perspective and shift ourselves into a more positive space in spite of what's happening around us. We can be friends with our neighbors. We can be friends with our enemies. We can learn to love people that maybe, didn't sit well with us in the past and we didn't want to be friends with. And now we're starting to reconcile our feelings. And I think that, COVID has actually shown us that we need each other, and that those connections have been, I say, desecrated from this technology that we're so attached to.
Mhm.
And I think that there's some value here in our experiences with the state of the union. It's really finding our voice and saying, hey, look, my life is not as bad as I perceived it to be. And I think a lot of us have been just projecting this life. But when we shift out of those spaces of that depression and that darkness, we can find our own light, and we can go outside and look at the sun and the sky and enjoy the world around us if we choose to. But it really definitely has to be a choice. And right now, it's really, really significant to us that we shift into that space of loving others, and really putting our first foot forward, and not creating any more separation. A person asked me the other day, I don't tend to be a political person. I have quite a few friends that are very political. But I meditate a lot. And in one of my meditations, it really kind of showed me that a lot of the political stuff that we're being fed is really creating a lot of separation around us.
And
And
that's on purpose,
so
right? Don't you
it's
agree
on purpose,
that,
absolutely,
that there's
and
puppets?
yeah, one of my friends said, "Who did you vote for?" And I didn't give an answer. I just said, I'm just done with the separation. I can't handle it anymore, because I love my neighbor. I love my friends. I love my enemies. I love everybody. And I can't go into those dark places that I did in the past, because those don't serve us. When we're hating each other and we're, speaking bad words to each other, we're just not showing anybody that's, needing kindness. And so I think that these times are going to create a better world for us so that we can love each other and we can honor each other. You know, I
By
think
choice.
because this is inevitable that we realize that we're in a love revolution. We're not in this political thing. We're not in a spiritual, you know, uh, I say spiritual warfare or anything like that. This is just the universe showing us in a really beautiful way how much we mean to each other and how we can find love, for the underdog or the upper dog or whoever, and show love and compassion where maybe we didn't in the past.
Do you remember
So,
that song, This is the Dawning of the Age of Aquarius?
well, we're in the age of Aquarius. We're
That's
actually
what I've
even
been reading.
2 feet
That,
in.
yeah, that we've got now. I'm on the cusp. February 19th is my birthday. I'm barely Pisces. In reality, I'm probably Aquarius. So I just read them both. But I've actually been hearing a
Yeah.
lot of YouTube people talking about, or people being interviewed on YouTube, talking about as we move into the age of Aquarius, the central topic of our discussion, this awakening, the ascension into higher vibrational planes, that's all happening. And some of the strife that we're seeing, some of the hatred of each other and the, you're evil, no, you're evil, that it's actually
Right.
sort of a byproduct of this ascension. And,
Right.
my question to you is, how do you know that this is happening to you? In other words, like you've started your YouTube channel, you're growing the intuitive healer. You have that wonderful post with the, what people don't understand is the two wings of a bird, the left and the right, belong to the same bird.
Absolutely.
How do you know physically that this awakening is happening to you?
Well, a lot of people have been coming to me and saying, hey, there's something going on. Like I've been thinking weird thoughts, or, I've been having interruptions in my sleep, or I don't want to do what I used to do, or they're making connections with people that, like I said earlier, it's people they haven't in a long time. And when we come to a place where we're in this awakening, I don't want to say enlightenment because I don't really feel like none of us could actually be enlightened. Even the monks up in Tibet that are doing their meditations for 8 to 10 hours, if you ask them, they'd be like, no, I'm not enlightened. So, I hate to throw that word around. And I even hate to use the word, awakened. I think that we're more in a state of awareness as to what's important to us now and the things that we want to manifest and where we've been for the last 10 years in our life and what's actually possible moving forward into, well, we're starting a new world, and this new world is showing us all the beauty that we have forgotten about. And so there's just so much good. And you know this awakening that people are going through, it's just them redefining who they are and finding love for themselves again, past all of their experiences that, we create our experiences. So we're out there creating a bad experience, well, that experience is going to show up, but it's all around our thoughts. And this awakening is allowing us to find spaces in our life where we can reconcile love, we can reconcile a job, we can reconcile a relationship, and we're starting to find more meaning because we're in awareness. And so
Do
I
you think
really
that could
feel
be
like
a,
this
a
is
side effect of the fact that so many people were told, don't go to work? And now you're
right.
on the internet, you're not just sitting there watching Netflix or whatever.
Right.
Uh, you have to realize, okay, who am I really? I'm not at work all the time. So I have,
Right.
that whole thing of you define yourself as your job. Well, if you're not at your job, you get to learn who you really are. Or
Right.
in my case, I still have a full-time job, blessedly, but
Right.
I find all my free time being spent looking at things I would never have looked at in the past, or in other words, jumping out of my past restraints. Uh,
Yeah.
And I think so many people are doing that. It's one of the blessings of the vast shutdown.
Oh, I've seen so much just in the last 6 to 8 months. I mean, I give certifications to people. I teach people how to be an energy worker, and just the feedback from people saying, "Hey, I feel like I'm this new person. I'm starting to rediscover who I am. Maybe in the past they got in an accident, they couldn't do something. Now they're actually like, I'm not going to let that hold me back anymore. I'm going to try again." And so there's a lot of optimism around us, and I'm starting to see that quite a bit, with people that are coming to me and saying, "I'm awakened." And I'm like, "Well, you're awakening to the better parts of yourself." And I think that's really what needs to be said for this awakening that everybody keeps talking about, is that we get to find joy and happiness in our lives, and we're being awakened to the fact that that's possible, that we don't have to live in suffering. I've studied Buddhism and Taoism for the last 10 years, and it's time for us to be devoid of suffering. It's time for us to wake up every morning and be glad that we're alive, and go outside and enjoy this beautiful world in which we still live in, this gorgeous world. It's just, how are we looking at this world now, and how are we connecting to others in our awakening? So I think that's the bigger thing. I have these cards, Ralph, that I really enjoy, and I kind of wanted to pull a question card for those viewers out there, that maybe a little food for thought here, and kind of see where we're all at. And
Let's do
so
it.
this is my card that I pulled, which is funny because I love the daisy, but it says, "How can I be more flexible?" And so for those of us, I'm going to hold this up a little bit longer. For those of us that are questioning our life, maybe you can interject some flexibility, maybe where you weren't flexible before, or maybe you can bring some things into your life that can make you a lot more happy. Maybe if you rode a bike, get back on the bike. If you used to take a hike or go camping, go enjoy yourselves. This is not a time for us to be in this sullen, dark depression. Even though we're in winter, this is a time of healing and growth. When the bears hibernate for the winter, their cells of their body are getting rejuvenated. And that's the same thing as us. We're going into the dark winter, and we're getting to rejuvenate parts of ourselves, so that when spring comes, we're going to, be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and dealt with some of our stuff in this dark winter, and really, really have a great summer. Because I think 2021 is really going to define some really amazing things. And I think that a lot of us are going to be like, wow, I've been thinking about this whole time, and it actually showed up in my life.
Mhm.
So there's just so much positivity. I can't begin to say it. I have so many people that are very just, "Why are you so positive? We're in COVID, we're in pandemic, we're in all this." And I said, because if I find my peace, Ralph, then I can share that peace with other people, and they can share that with other people, and we can start this love and peace revolution that we really need to start.
Don, you're exactly right. So I'll be at work, and it's a silly little retail job, but I have a lot of fun, just goofing off or goofing around with people.
Yeah.
And I'm asked a lot of times, why am I always so happy? Well, of course I'm not always happy.
Right.
Of course I'm not. On the other hand, I'll tell you, when I'm driving into work, almost every day, I'm amazed. There's the Yampa Valley River. You lived up there
Mm,
for years and years. That ride from where I live to Steamboat, and you have these
yeah.
vistas that open up. And I'm like, well, this is one of the most beautiful trips to work you could have,
Oh,
coming and going.
absolutely.
And then I
Yeah.
get there to work, and yeah, it's rather mundane, but you know what?
Right.
It's varied, and it's air conditioned or it's heated. Yeah, I'm not outside, putting roofs together,
Yeah.
not doing landscaping, not clearing out the the snow off the roofs. In other words, okay, it's a controlled environment, and
Right.
basically my point is, and there's tons of people to interact with and to joke with, and you just sort of relax. And I think
Right.
I've never been quite so happy, and I think it's because I understand that everything in life has culminated to this point where I
Yeah.
chose the things that happened, and could not see the results. But in other words, it's a case of you. I could say, well, I got to drive 22 miles to work.
Right.
I got to go
Yeah.
really slow. There's dead animals on the side of the road.
Oh
The
my
job
God.
is boring. Oh my God, I got to do another passport photo and tell people, please don't smile. In other words,
Oh, geez.
you could just be look at your events around you and go, oh my God, I'm earning less money than I did in 1987.
Oh my.
And yet everything's
You're
fine.
happy.
More than
Yeah.
enough food. The family's turned out quite well. There's almost nothing to complain about in a
Right.
real world situation. So my point is, we define whether or not we're going to be happy or not by our reactions to events. And if you
Absolutely.
take on the burdens of the world, and you're looking around and saying, "Well, there was a war in Armenia. Oh, that's horrible." Um, in other words, we define how we're going to react to the events. And I wonder if that's what you're thinking about when you're talking about people awakening,
Yeah.
paying
Yeah.
attention to the real world around them at this moment, and not letting all those outside sources that want to dangle the world around us and say everything's horrible, that people disagree with you are horrible, all religions lie. You know what? It's meaningless existence. You know,
Right.
I think people are ignoring that.
Well, and I honestly, I feel like, it's like there's a space around us that we're really creating ourselves, and I've had a couple of my clients call me and say, I'm just so depressed. I don't know what to do. This election's going on and just talking about all of this. And I ask them, but where's your peace at right now? Like, are you creating that peace around you? Or are you overreacting, when the person that you picked for the election didn't win? I mean, how are you reacting to the world around you? Because that's the world that you're creating by those reactions. I have a 92-year-old grandmother, and one of the things that I always ask her every year on her birthday, I say, how did you get to be that old, Grandma? And you know what she says to me? She
What?
says, I have a good attitude, Dawn. I have a good attitude. If something, if I'm in a bad situation, I react the same to a bad situation as I do a good situation. And she's like, that's what's kept me alive all these years. So I like to take her advice and say, hey, maybe, no matter what happens, if it's bad or good, I'm still going to have the same reaction. And I think it's good for us if you don't, if you're trying to control those reactions, maybe come to a neutral space where you're like, I'm just not going to be judgmental, because judgment really, really stops us from happiness. And, if we're reacting in a judgmental way, we're really blocking all the good from coming in. So when you talk about the reactions, like, we really need to get a handle on ourselves, as adults, so that we can, show the next generation and the next generation how to handle life in a positive way instead
Well,
of in
wouldn't
the
you say that
past.
we as parents have done that? I would say,
Absolutely.
I'm looking at my own children, and
Right.
they do respond to the world largely as we do as adults. As teenagers, we just have to give them a
Absolutely.
pass. By the
Yeah.
way, well, William Shatner had his secret to a long life.
What
Um,
was that?
don't die.
Oh, geez.
He said,
Yeah.
just wake up each day, and that's how you have a long life. Okay, that's
Oh.
pretty straightforward.
Well, and I think it kind of it puts the energy around, like, just be happy to wake up every day. I mean, if you can't find your peace, at least wake up and say, hey, I made it one more day. or, you know, bring some type of positivity in. I mean, this is really, this awakening is really kind of showing us where our happiness really is. And a lot of even my clients I've been talking to and just saying, hey, what did you do when you were a kid? What made you happy then? Because a lot of the things in our adult life we forget about, you know, because we have children, marriages, and we got to go to work, and we have all these things to think about. But in all actual reality, outside of that, we should really, really be, you know, asking ourselves, like, what makes me happy today, or what can I do to interject a little bit of happiness and peace and harmony into my life, because we're the ones that control this whole experience. You know, I call it the game of life, and you've got to play it right in order to be happy and at peace and
Well,
have
you've
the
done
things
that.
that you want.
I mean, I remember
So
when you were a property manager, and then you went on to
oh
become a
gosh,
yoga instructor, right?
yeah.
And I was one of your first students, wildly inept. Uh, but you were patient. But then you continued on and got your certifications and your education. And
Yeah,
please excuse my printer, which has decided to talk, even though it's been dead all day. Uh,
yeah,
but anyway, you are sort of embodying that, create your life, decide what you want to do, and become that person you want to be.
absolutely.
I mean, people need
Well,
to
and
go to your
we
YouTube
have
site.
so much more control than we think, Ralph.
Mhm.
We just do. And we've just not been told that we have that kind of control over our lives.
That's true. And
So,
I think people are ideally, you know, now not to get into too many current events, but those that are running around yelling and doing things that are probably not right.
right.
I would say that's a direct result of feeling that somebody else has control over you, and you're
Absolutely.
rebelling against that, whether you're carrying weapons to polling places and you feel somebody's doing something that illegal, or if you're throwing bricks and stuff through windows. In those cases, I would say that those are people who feel estranged, that they don't feel in control of their lives. But the vast majority aren't doing those
Mm,
things, and they're
right.
watching it as the reason it's news is because even now, that's not normal. Everyday people aren't doing those things. They're doing what
No.
you're doing. They're recreating their lives and branching out and being
Yeah.
creative. They're strengthening their marriages, and I think
Right.
that's part of what you were talking about.
Yeah, that's
Eventually,
why I'm saying that the news doesn't cover all that positivity. That it's just trying to influence us into being in this fear factor all the time. And, you know, like I said, even though we're going through a pandemic, how many mothers have been taking their kids to daycare, or they're at school all day and they don't get to see them, or the parents being able to have dinner together? You know, I'm seeing these beautiful, beautiful relationships flourish where they weren't flourishing before. So, even like I said, in spite of what's going on in the world, we do have that ability to transform our lives, you know, in a way that really fits us. I mean, I think also this awakening or this awareness is actually allowing us to see where we're neglecting ourselves in our lives, and where we're neglecting relationships, maybe work connections, you know, maybe family connections, and things are really starting to go on the up and up. And the news is just not portraying all that positivity, you know, that like these, like I said, these parents that were shipping their kids off, they're like, wow, I get to tuck you in bed tonight, you know, and that's special, that's important, you know. Or the parents that get to eat dinner together because now they work from home. You know, there's just a lot of grandness, a positivity that we've never seen before. And we're just not being exposed to it because there's all this news that's trying to, you know, distract us from the good.
yeah,
So it's really important that we
keep us
take a
silent.
stand in our lives, excuse me, to really allow ourselves to see ourselves in a different place in life, you know, to really know that we have the ability to be happy, you know. And I think that with a lot of the things that have happened in the world, we really are like, how can I be happy? This is happening. Well, when you close the door of your house, whatever's going on in your house is what you're creating.
That's
So
right.
if your house is not happy, you're creating that, you know, and the rest of the world is not influenced by what happens in your house.
Well, you know, I
So
watch your YouTube channel, I watch your videos, and essentially what you're doing with the cards, and for each sign, you're telling love stories. You're giving signs and indications of your life is going to get better in this romantic area,
yeah,
and you give hints, clues that things are going to get better. Uh,
yeah,
I would guess that the people that have you do readings for them are already sort of going down that path. That's why they're paying you to give them some insight into their lives.
absolutely. Well, and you know, I think a lot of times people come to me for readings and they're like, gosh, I was thinking that the whole time. Well, sometimes I'm just the one that comes in and validates what they were already thinking or how they were already feeling, you know, and it was already within them. I just kind of pushed them along to say, here, look at this is what's happening.
Mhm.
And you know, I think that we can be inspired in our lives by really, really sitting with ourselves and really thinking about like, what makes me happy? You know, what can I do to make others happy? How can I be that light in the world that brings peace and harmony, happiness, and connection? You know, that's really the question we really need to be asking ourselves at this time, because that's going to open doors of opportunity. It's going to invite conversations with people maybe we didn't have before. But like I said, this awakening is showing people where their happiness is supposed to be.
Mhm. Well, I find that all, it's not to me frou-frou. To me, that's you and I and friends I have sort of embody that, they're showing that it's
Right.
true. I even know
Yeah.
somebody who uh, just to be in general terms, somebody very close to her, she loves dearly, stop following their postings on social media, uh,
Right.
because they were intrusive. In other words, we hear in the news about spouses fighting each other
Right.
over political views. I would say the
Ugh,
best thing they can do is turn off the news and look at
right.
each other and remember why they fell in love in the first place.
Oh,
Like you just said,
absolutely.
shut the door, and the
Mhm.
world that's in your house is the world you've created.
Yeah. For sure. You know, and that's why I'm saying we're starting to find real meaning in our lives through love. You know, those people even that have been sick, you know, I've seen people even on Facebook reach out and give money to people that need it. Lots of people really joining and banding together for the sake of love and really trying to create peace on earth, because a lot of us haven't experienced that.
Right.
So, you know, there's so much beauty to be seen and had, Ralph. It's just, we've got to look past all of this news and all this scrutiny that's actually wanting us to be in fear all the time. And, you know, life is still going to go on tomorrow. You know, we're still going to wake up in the morning, and it's like, how are we putting ourselves first, you know, right off the get-go? And I've been speaking to a lot of people. It's like, when you wake up in the morning, you're like, I'm glad I'm alive. What can I do to make my life and other lives more happier place to be?
It doesn't have to be a big thing either. For
No,
me, it can
no.
simply be, hey, I've got biscuits and gravy this morning. Let's get out of bed and go
Oh
eat.
gosh.
Low carb
Yeah.
biscuits and gravy.
I
Let's be
finally turned
fearless.
vegan. I decided to go vegan this morning. Who knows? I'm just throwing that in as being
Yeah.
funny. But you know what I'm saying. You know,
Yeah.
we do, it's like it's this cause and effect. We have to create the change for a change to happen. we can't just sit back and be in acceptance of how we lived our lives. You know, I talk a lot about indoctrinated belief systems, and that can be a belief system from your family, that could be from the media, it could be from a friend, a work environment. But you know, we're creating our lives in such a different way that a lot of us are just like, oh my gosh, what's happening? I never did that before, and now I'm thinking that, or I'm doing this differently. And we need to do that. We need to start refreshing our life, you know, hit the reset button and say, hey, I'm going to start all over today. And I'm going to decide when I wake up in the morning that I choose happiness for myself, and I choose happiness for the world around me, and creating that by our words, by our actions, you know, helping people that need our help, really creating, like I said, this love revolution that unites all of us in this higher vibrational frequency of love that all of us are, you know.
And for
So
instance, right now, one of the big complaints I hear is the internet makes everybody unhappy because you have information that can allow you to look bad at the world and separate yourself from others, and you can
right,
have that confirmation bias. I don't look at it that way. I look and say,
right.
for instance, for this discussion, I started looking up spiritual awakening, ascension. I watch Rex Bear on Leak Project. Uh,
Oh geez.
there's Linda Moulton Howe and her stuff on, well, it's out there stuff, but it's fantastic. In other
Right,
words, we have a universe of information available to us, and
right,
you just as you can look for stuff that confirms all the worst fears you have, you can also look for stuff. For instance, we can't go to church. The local church I've gone to, they're just not having live services because we're so restricted by the number of people
right.
that can go in the building. Well, on the other hand, the pastor pointed out the church has grown in its viewership
Oh
so
my
large
goodness.
because you can watch
Wow.
it while you're cooking breakfast in the morning, and they still do their three services.
Jeez.
So, in this particular church, Demo Christian Center, has had their the number of people seeing the sermons vastly increase over what it used to be. So you can
Yeah.
say, "Oh my God, we can't go to church." Well, actually, we are, and many more are going than ever before.
Just
Just
turn on the
because,
computer.
yeah, just turn it on, and you know how many times I've made an omelet while I'm listening to the pastor do a sermon. It's
Oh,
great.
geez. Yeah. Well, you know, like I said, our world is being redefined by technology right now. I mean, we are on the brink right now. I mean, and this is what my mentors are telling me, that AI is coming in significantly, and a lot of the jobs that we used to have where you'd have to physically be there that's just turning to technology. And you know, I think that there's a positive even around that. um, we have the ability to be at home and work and not have to drive and create traffic and all of that. And, you know, that's why I'm trying to see the most positive things in this new technology world. But even the AI that's coming in is going to really spell a lot of new medical rediscoveries for a lot of us. You know, I say me involved, I get to keep my grandma a little bit longer because there's this medical technology that is going to help her in her old age, whereas we didn't have 20 years ago.
Right.
So there is going to be this redefining. And, you know, a couple of my mentors said, don't think, you know, I don't know if you remember Bionic Man and those shows a long time ago.
I had a
I think
crush on the
probably
Bionic
in the
Woman. She was
70s.
wonderful. I loved her when
And
she ran in
so
slow motion.
right. So we are looking at this technology now with AI where, you know, people that have prosthesis and things like that are actually, they have like computer chips where it's actually telling the nerves and the cells in the body what to do. So, you know, there is a lot of positive. I don't know if I would be okay with being, you know, like a bionic man if I lost a limb or something like that. I'd have to, you know, sit with that one for a little bit. But we definitely are moving in more of a positive direction so that we can live longer, you know, and part of that working from home is supporting that.
Uh,
So,
I agree.
so what is your version, may I ask, about what you think ascension is on a vibrational aspect or sense? Because I always ask you, Ralph, you're like, I see you as a very spiritual guy, but also very, very hungry for this type of knowledge and really kind of understanding what that means for your life too. So I'm just curious as to where you're at, as far as the awakening.
I think so I started doing meditation some time ago where you still your mind and just concentrate on your breathing. And I found that to be a really useful addition to my day. It really calms things down.
Right.
Um, and I am also just sort of in our conversation, I used to be utterly absorbed by everyday stresses,
Right.
marriage difficulties, children,
Sure.
job. And now as time has gone by and I look at all the strife and what have you, again, like I was saying earlier, yeah, I didn't plan anything, but I wound up in a beautiful area that's safe. Um, it's a ton of stuff to do. My
Yeah.
job's absolutely secure. It's largely stress free for me because I've had stressful jobs before, and this is not it.
Right.
I'm not rich by any means, but I have enough to pay
Right.
my bills, to eat, overeat, not as much as I used to. Or I got a jawline again. But no, to me, I think we're embodying that ascension where you sort of look around at the world and be thankful. And also, to me, you look at some of the YouTube channels or the alternative websites, and there's so much information out there. You used to have to
Oh
go to a
gosh.
library or go to, you had information brokers that would stop you from getting to info. Now, if I want to, listen to Linda Moulton Howe, for instance, talk about how some ancient race came here and did some genetic manipulation and
Oh my.
you know and we all
Yeah.
suddenly they created us to be slaves, but it turned out we have souls. And oh my God, Christopher Walken's movie The Prophecy is true. The angels
Oh
hate us because
my.
we rise above them to be godlike. In other words,
Yeah.
all this information to me is out there that we're aware of. And I think that to me what we're talking about is um, when you talk to people who are not in a fighting mindset, um, that's most of us. And I think
Right.
the world is, you remember that there was this old saying, what if they announced a war and nobody came?
Oh, jeez.
I, I think,
Well,
I think every
it can
war,
happen.
every war is now, every war we've been in the last, 30 years or so, we have enough information to say, hey, we don't think the causes are justified. Um,
Right.
Here, I'll give you a quick example of what I think. Remember years ago, there was an announcement that Russia was invading the borders of Ukraine. And
Oh,
we had some
jeez.
black and white photos, aerial photos that were taken and generals were saying, these are tanks coming over the border. Well, people like me, I remember I went on Google Earth and looked at, just that area because we knew what area it was. And
Right.
I zoomed in as far as you could and I saved the photos, did screenshots, and I said, here I can see trees and fields and roads.
Right.
Uh, if there's proof of tanks coming across the Ukrainian border, why are we seeing blurry black and white images that defense people have to interpret for us? I said, surely
Right.
they have better video than that. We didn't go to war
Oh,
against them.
jeez.
Or there was another time where we were going to invade Syria. We were going to bomb them
Right.
because Assad had supposedly used chemical weapons against his own people. And
Yeah.
people like me and millions of others said, there's something wrong here. This story doesn't make
Right.
any sense.
Right.
And I remember President Obama, he came out to the Rose Garden. They expected him to announce that we're going to use action against them, attack Assad. And instead he says, we're not going to do that. Well, that was because, thanks to the internet, if we say this person is our enemy, we have to go drop bombs and kill them. Um, by God, we're going to know if it's true or not, or
Right.
if we're being
Well,
manipulated.
and I think that's what we're being fed, all this stuff, and And like spiritual teachers talk about a 3D and a 5D, and it's this higher upgrade vibrational system that we're sitting in. And I know there's some viewers out there that are like, what is she talking about, vibration? But we are moving into a higher consciousness frequency. And you know, that is this awakening. It is this higher mentality that a lot of us are really, you know, moving into that space. So
Dawn, I
I
think
don't
that's why we're
know.
seeing all these new videos of, you know, the military, the government announcing, yeah, these videos were real, and these were not vehicles created on this earth. You know, they've
Yeah.
already. I think we're seeing a lot more of that stuff. One of the arguments about why we have the aliens haven't landed on the White House lawn is, well, we keep shooting at them.
Oh my gosh.
And it's not that they could, you know, not avoid anything we have, because they're well past us in terms of defense capabilities, but that they're like, well, we got to wait till you're ready. I think that the reason we're seeing so much of this now on all over social media is
Uh-huh.
because we're getting closer to being ready.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely.
that that sort of reflects the vibrational uprising, that people are open to it. Stephen Greer actually has an app you can buy
Oh
where
my
you can
gosh.
initiate discussions. Well, that's all about being spiritually ready to to see things that typically we would not see because we weren't ready for it.
Well, it's us taking off the rose-colored glasses and finally going, wow, I've been making myself suffer over all these experiences that I've created in my own life. And now I don't want to do that anymore. I want to be different, and I want to enjoy this life, and I want to see the beauty in the little things that I didn't see before. And, you know, there are a lot of spiritual teachers out there that are really, really pulling the strings behind the scenes and really allowing us, you know, they're kind of setting up this platform for us to be allowed to be our authentic selves. You know, they're help supporting that upgrade within us, you know. And I don't, on Facebook, I like to talk about a lot of etheric things, but if you want to pull away from the etheric spaces of stuff and you want to go into like ancient teachings, Mayan calendar really talks about this ending of this cycle and starting a new 30-year cycle.
Mhm.
And even a lot of the ancient scriptures from the Mayans talk about this new discovered new world. And so, you know, I think as humans, we're like, we expect it like, oh, this world just here it is, and there it is, instead of us actually going through the motions of creating this new world, you know. And that's what the Mayans talked about, was that it was us that was going to create that new world. Because I mean, let's be honest, Ralph, if we keep rolling the way that we've been rolling in the last 20 years, we're not going to have a planet anymore. We're
Yes.
just not. We really have to straighten up ourselves and know that we have to recycle, that we have to conserve on water, that we have to really, really take care of our natural resources. Because as we populate, you know, as a world, a lot of those resources are being taken away because we have a lot of building. You know, as humans, we like to build things and, you know, take out the nature and build structures. And that's good and positive if we're doing it in, I would say, in a compassionate way towards our earth.
You know,
And it's
Don, you're
each and
exactly.
every one of us that has to play a part in that in order for us to really create the significant change that really needs to take place.
Well, this is exactly what we're talking about, where on one hand, you could say people are buying tiny homes and getting rid of plastic and
Yeah.
downsizing from the consumerist lifestyle because they can't afford to, the jobs have gone away. They can't afford to buy the big homes and have two cars and all that stuff. He's, from my point of view, I say, no, this is great. We don't need those things. People are realizing how simply they can live their material lives and how little money they actually need to be happy. And to me, the tiny home
Absolutely.
movement is you flip it on the other way. You look at it and say, well, this is actually a blessing,
It
not, not,
is.
not a horrible thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we kind of experienced a little bit of that during the first part of COVID. Everybody was freaking out going to the grocery store and trying to load up on toilet paper. And here's something really funny. A friend of mine said, well, toilet paper business hasn't been this successful in a long time. I'm like, well, we still keep using toilet paper, but COVID really, really set them up, and even though, we felt like we were not having enough, in all actual reality, we probably had more than enough. I mean, I was living in Salt Lake during the first part of COVID, and I literally saw people, go to their neighbors, bringing them food and toiletries and things like that. And so it was really beautiful to kind of experience other people sharing. But in Utah, their religions out there really support keeping a stockpile of food and water and things that they need. So I didn't really see a whole lot of chaos in Salt Lake. But then when I traveled and went to Denver, I saw it, at more of an extreme because the mentality was different. But in the same token, a lot of, like I said, toilet paper companies and other companies that possibly could have been struggling are now flourishing because of this.
Oh, the mask
So
industry is doing very,
it's
very well.
yeah, I mean, and it's funny because if we think about that, we're like, why was, toilet paper became this just craze, like, oh my God, we're at the grocery store, there's no toilet paper. What are we gonna do? And so, people have really had to think about how to take care of themselves through this as well.
Hmm.
So yeah. But, also I've been kind of surprised with the COVID thing because, I try to get in and research different things that happen disease wise. And one of the things that was really kind of unnerving to me is the fact that COVID, is supposed to be killed by high temperatures. And so I wondered to myself why all of this didn't end in August because we had a pretty hot summer. So lots of questions and, food for thought for me looking at the world outside of me because I tend to be really introverted and I don't, a lot of my interactions with people are via internet or by phone because I'm a traveler. So yeah, I think this world's going to get a whole lot better. And I think that, even I'm already starting to like see friends of mine that were dating for like 8 years and like, oh gosh, we should get married. Like, and never thought to get married before, so there's just this real beautiful energy around thought right now for us to really define what's important, where we want to go in the next few months, and what we need to do in order to get to that place. Because I am seeing, a lot. I do predictions of the future, and in 2016, I predicted all of this. But I also predicted that at the end of all of this, the world was going to be a really beautiful place to live in. So I'm holding up the roof with that prediction, and I can't wait to see what we all create in this technology world, so that we can free ourselves from suffering and this confusion and hate and all these bad things that we've really interjected a lot into our world, that we get to resurface that and we get to make it the world that we want our families to live in and prosper and flourish and
Well
thrive.
said, Miss Dawn. Well said. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Well, this has
So
been is there anything else you want to talk about before we wrap this up? Anything else on your mind you wanted to say?
I just want people out there to understand, that we are changing and this change has been inevitable that we do because we have not been playing our cards right. And a lot of, things on the earth have been suffering because of it. And so, for us to see past all of our greed, our jealousy, our hatred, and try to create more of a happy space in our own worlds, in our own backyards, is really what's going to help, the collective, on a bigger, broader spectrum. And so, I think a lot of us pioneers out there, our spiritual teachers, are really trying to set up this more beautiful world where our kids and future generations really don't have to be in a hateful world, and they can learn to love each other and maybe teach others, how to love in that space. So this redefinition of what we're experiencing right now, I'm excited about what's going to happen. There's so much good that's going to happen in the next few months, and it's going to be kind of shocking. But like I said, this was inevitable that we create change because we couldn't live the way that we were living before, just destroying so many valuable things in our lives. And no wonder a lot of us were upset and, in depression and not having good lives, is we really needed, I say, to kind of break the dam open and say, hey, we need to flow. We can't be holding the water back anymore. So it's important for us to be in a very happy and loving space. And I know for those of you out there that are struggling and are like, I can't do it. Well, there's somebody that's holding the roof up for you. There's somebody out there that you can talk to, or you can, create a connection with. Even a perfect stranger could say the most perfect words to you. But we've got to start making these connections, because this separation is what's killing our planet.
Well said. Totally agree with you. I've had total strangers say the kindest things to me lately, and
Absolutely.
it's just very nice. Make it just
Yeah.
boost your whole day.
Right.
Well,
Well,
thanks, Don.
awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Ralph. I appreciate your time. And like I said, there are very, very positive things that are about to happen. And I think these unexpected changes are really going to allow our future generations to have a very, very good, peaceful, harmonious, and happy life.
Beautiful. Well, thanks very much. We'll do this again whenever you want.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks a lot.